Hello, everybody. It is I, Philip, once again coming back at you with another episode of the Backslog. Hope everyone is doing a-okay. Hope everyone's doing well. With me, as always, I am joined by both Zen and Tifa. How are you two going today?
I'm a bit of a bunny here. I don't know about you, but I am a bunny. I'm doing pretty good. I had a nice day of scripting, doing a lot of work and stuff, and it's a snowstorm out here, so hopefully we're coming out fine. But other than that, got a script done, got some Genshin in, gonna be watching Logan later. It's gonna be a fun time.
Mm-hmm. And how are you doing, Tifa?
Genji sucks and Ilya deserves to be protected.
Wow, just jumping right into it. Don't go spoiling too much right off the bat. But yes, with that, on that note, everyone, we are back with our second of three streams. Technically four, because we are going to be covering Fate Zero not too long in the future. We are doing our second of 3 or 4 Fate streams. Last time we covered Fate Stay Night, the 2006 Studio Deen series that covers the first of the 3 routes of Fate Stay Night, the visual novel. If you want more of a rundown of, if you want more of a rundown of things, you should go watch that stream, because this episode's more so going to be about, just jumping straight into things with the Unlimited Blade Works anime adaptation. And one thing I kind of wanted to cover, just jumping right into it, just straight off the bat, is this is an anime adaptation that's kind of known for a lot of it's an anime adaptation that's known for it came out in a weird spot, essentially, because when Unlimited Blade Works had come out in anime form, there had already been, at this point, almost a decade's worth, actually no, it came out in 2014, so there was a decade's worth of the Fate franchise already having existed. Obviously, we had the original 2 visual novels with Stay Night and Holotaraxia, the Studio Deen adaptation. Several spin-offs had been animated with Prisma Ilia and Carnival Phantasm. But most importantly, in 2011 and 2012, Studio Ufotable, who were the people who animated the Kara no Kyokai films and would later go on to do Demon Slayer, they were tasked with doing a Fate Zero adaptation. Fate Zero, of course, being the Gen Urobuchi penned light novel series that takes place 10 years prior to Fate Stay Night, that, goes into the origins of the 4th Holy Grail War, the one that precedes the 5th Holy Grail War in Fate Stay Night. And Fate Zero, for a just kind of underselling it a little bit, it did really, 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 really well. It's basically what kicked off a lot of people's interest in the Fate franchise. To say that Fate Zero is a great anime is an understatement. It is a fantastic anime, and it served as a lot of people's gateway into the Fate franchise. Now, there are some pros and cons to that. Obviously, Fate Zero is a prequel, so in a lot of ways, it does spoil Fate Stay Night's narrative. This doesn't stop a lot of people from enjoying Stay Night, although it can lead to some issues that I'm sure we will get to as we go through this anime adaptation. But essentially, after Fate Zero had come out and was a massive success, the logical thing was, okay, well, Fate Zero did really well. Now, and Type Moon basically went, now why don't we get Ufotable to do a Fate Stay Night adaptation? And so they sat down, they announced that a Stay Night adaptation was in the works, but they decided, they had a conversation about, okay, which route do we adapt? Because at this point, obviously, the Studio Deen anime had come out and it was mostly an adaptation of the Fate route. And so they were like, okay, well, that route's already been covered by Deen. And we want to get to a lot of the really good stuff that comes with UBW and Heaven's Feel. So, and, obviously, Studio Deen had also made their own Unlimited Blade Works adaptation, but that was only like a single 90-minute movie, which was not good because it's cramming a 25 to 30 hour route from the visual novel into a single 90-minute movie. So, like, obviously that wasn't going to be good. And so Ufotable just went, you know what? Let's start with Unlimited Blade Works. Let's make that our big Fate Stay Night TV series adaptation. And then after the fact, we can turn Heaven's Feel into a movie trilogy. And that way, all the routes will be animated, everything will be adapted, and we'll have completed Fate Stay Night. And so that is the origin behind Unlimited Blade Works. And while this does, like, it's the origin of the Unlimited Blade Works adaptation specifically. And while this did help to, like, you know, give Fate Stay Night itself some more attention and some more, you know, and some more notoriety, especially for people who came in with Fate Zero, it did lead to some issues in regards to the fact that, you know, a lot of people are now essentially skipping the Fate route, which is, you know, Saber's route in the story. And they're also treating Unlimited Blade Works as more so of a Fate Zero sequel as opposed to the original story in of itself. So there's a lot you can really say about that. I want to turn it over to you guys now. We'll start with you, Zen, and we'll then go on to you, Tifa. So your perspective into this was not so much, you know, looking at this in an isolated, like, or not isolated. It wasn't looking at this more so of like a follow-up to Fate Zero. It was looking at this more so as a follow-up to the 2006 series, because this is obviously the second of 3 routes from the visual novel. What was kind of your perspective going into this, especially with all the context I just laid out right now?
It's really different for me because I read about half of. Well, how much did I read of the Fate route?
You read almost just shy of a third, I want to say. Like, you weren't like, I wouldn't say you were halfway at all. I'd say you were just shy of a third.
And it's like, I liked it, but then I saw the anime, the Deen Stay Night, and it's really not good. It's better than Danganronpa, the animation, but it's still not really good. But like, this is like night and day, and part of me wishes I hadn't seen the Fate Stay Night 2006. Like, I kind of wish I had just read the Fate route, but it takes a lot longer to do, and it's just like, there are things that the Deen version spoiled for me, and there are things that unfortunately Tifa spoiled for me in this route. But
we'll get to that.
we'll get to that.
Unfortunately, I spoiled a few things by being good at
Yeah,
history and mythology.
yes, you did. But with that being said, what really got me about this is that it is such a better product, and I'm going to talk more about the prologue in a bit. But Phil showed me the prologue first, and I'm like, why wasn't this a part of the Deen Stay Night version? The prologue is a perfect encapsulation of how the game starts, and it's like, this prologue right here got me into Fate Stay Night more than anything, because it's basically how the game did, only animated beautifully. I'm like, there's a lot of things I like about this, and there's a lot of things that, like, I couldn't quite see where it was going, but I feel like Unlimited Blade Works, they did a fantastic job making this a realization. Would you agree with that, Phil?
I would agree with that. I think that there's a lot of ways in which, like, as an adaptation, this just works better. Like, it's weird because that prologue is meant to be viewed at, like, the very, very start of the visual novel. And yet, if you're watching all 3 of the anime adaptations for Stay Night, you're watching it, like, right as you head into Unlimited Blade Works. Which, like, in a weird way, like, I think works even still, because you're watching this prologue from Rin's perspective right as you go into the Rin route. So I really think it works from that regard. I will say, I know why they decided to skip the Fate route. Like, I know why they decided to just go to the Unlimited Blade Works, but, like, man, do I wish that they had done the Fate route adaptation, because, like, I think that route is, like, solely in need of a good adaptation, because a lot of people like just disregard the Fate route, and like I agree it is the weakest of the three routes, but it has a lot of merit all on its own. And like I definitely think kind of like giving it the added content that that Unlimited Blade Works received, kind of like how they added a lot of stuff to UBW just for the anime strictly. I think doing that for the Fate route would have actually like bolstered it up like really well, because like since the original visual novel came out, we have gotten several things to expand the Fate route. You know, we got the last episode in the visual novel, which you get by getting all the endings. That's an extended prologue to the Fate route that we didn't even talk about. We got the Garden of Avalon CD dramas, which go a bit more into Saber's past as King Arthur. There's a lot of stuff that we've gotten to like expand on details, and like I feel like that, like adding those to like a Stay Night like a Fate route adaptation for Fate Stay Night would have been really good. But I do understand why they wanted to like jump right into Unlimited Blade Works.
I do feel like if they want to do an adaptation now, this would be a great time, because like, you know, we had the Tsukihime remake, we have Witch on the Holy Night, we have these things coming out. So I'm like, get more people to Fate Stay Night with an actual adaptation of the first route. And we have the Fate Stay Night remaster or whatever on PC. So like
remaster, yeah.
Yeah. It just, now's a perfect time for them to actually get Ufotable to finish and adapt that route. I think would be great.
Well, if Ufotable ever comes out with their Witch on the Holy Night movie, which has been fucking in development for 4 years, and we've gotten like 2 trailers over the course like that came out like 2 years apart from one another, and then nothing. I think a large reason as to that, although just to be fair, is that the Demon Slayer Infinity Castle trilogy has taken up a lot of their time, so it's kind of put the Mihoyo movie like on the back burner. So we'll see what happens with that. Tifa, I noticed you've been muted all this time. Why don't you give us your thoughts on Unlimited Blade Works going into it?
Well, at first I didn't want to interrupt, hence why I also muted myself, and not to mention I've been also doing the laundry that just got dried up. But anyways, I do agree with what Zen is saying, but also as somebody who is not familiar with either Type Moon or the Fate franchise, I still think it was still a good stepping stone to watching the Studio Deen Fate series before going into the Ufotable one, because it feels, I'm gonna compare this to how I approached Full Metal Alchemist. I watched the first series, of course, and then went through that anime only ending, because I mean the manga was still ongoing when that anime was made, and then I watched Brotherhood. I still appreciate watching the original, despite the ending making no fucking sense because it's anime only. But it also gave me like that bit of information that I think I needed when watching Brotherhood. It's not like sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up, my apologies. It's almost like, okay, you got your context, yes. Same with Brotherhood. You do have the context, but it also has like a few additional episodes that are just dialogue in Brotherhood when they're full-on episodes in the original. Compared to, say, something like the Infinity Castle movies that you just mentioned, if somebody just goes into that movie without knowing anything from the anime, thinking like, oh, maybe this is like a first viewer friendly kind of movie, wrong. But that's not something that can be said for Fate. I still appreciate watching the original from Studio Deen, and also you showed me the opening, the prologue for Unlimited Blade Works, and I still think that was a good way for me to get the information that I would need, along with the Studio Deen version, where I would see the relationship between Shiro and Saber compared to Unlimited Blade Works, which is more Shiro and Rin.
I will say, I do think a big difference regarding Stay Night's anime adaptations and FMA's adaptations is like the the 2006 series and UBW cover like two very different stories. Whereas the first one covers the first route and the second one covers the second route. Whereas FMA 2003 and Brotherhood are going like in a way going for the same story. It's just that 2003 ran out of material and had to create some very divisive and oftentimes not well liked new material. So
I actually really like FMA original. I haven't seen Brotherhood. I know there's controversy. I love the original FMA.
I'm gonna be going. Okay, this is where
Watch Brotherhood.
This is where my anime credentials go out the window. I have not experienced any FMA. I know details about its, I know details about its plot, but like that's about it.
Dishonor.
Phil wanted us
Dishonor
to
and your whole
cover
family.
the manga, and I read very slowly, so we couldn't cover the manga on here. But like, we'll eventually cover Full Metal Alchemist at some point on the channel.
My plan, and this is a very big aside, my plan is I'm gonna read the manga in my own time. I might make some YouTube shorts regarding it. I'll probably get more into that as the year comes to an end or as the new year begins. So, but like, I'll probably make some YouTube shorts regarding my journey throughout the FMA manga. Once I'm done with the manga, then we'll likely do both 2003 and Brotherhood for the Backslog at some point. But that's off topic. But yeah, it's, for me, like, I think that, like, through some means, you should be experiencing the Fate route, whether that be through the visual novel, or the 2006 anime, or the manga, which I have not read in full, but I hear is actually really fucking good, and it is complete, unlike the UBW and Heaven's Feel mangas. The Fate route manga is actually fully complete, and it even ends with the last episode of the visual novel, which is really nice. I do think that there is something to be said about the last episode coming at the very, very, very end. Because essentially the whole context for that, it's not very long. Essentially the whole context of that is that like it's Shiro reuniting with Artoria in Avalon, far off.
Don't you mean Altria?
I will fucking have you assassinated. Don't you ever call her that again. Don't you ever say that again. God, the fucking thing. So the thing about that, Zen, is that like that was all done because essentially like when they were doing the official translation for Fate Grand Order, because at that point Artoria was largely used in like fan subs and stuff like that, and when it came time to like dub the anime for like all these series, it was like, okay, well, what's the most like generally agreed upon name for her? And it's like, okay, well, it's Artoria. So that's why in all the anime adaptations throughout like the first 15 years of Fate existing, her name is Artoria. So like they call her Artoria in the subs, in the dubs, all that stuff. But when it came time to do Fate Grand Order's official translation, they apparently needed like an official name that they could like patent and trademark. And so they asked Nasu, like, how are you meant to spell her name in English? And Nasu was basically like, I don't know, Altria, like, and he spelt it out, and so it's like, okay, well, I guess we're patenting the trademark for Altria. So essentially, her name is Altria as a mistake. It was a fucking mistake, like, and now they're stuck with it because it's they have the trademark for it, so they're basically stuck with it. It's Artoria, not Altria. So yeah, that's very, very funny to me. There's a mod for those curious for the Fate Stay Night remastered release on Steam. There is a mod that replaces every instance of the word Altria with Artoria, which I highly recommend you get if you're gonna get the remaster on PC. But
I mean, I understand the problem. It's just like one of those things where, like, if you're gonna patent a character, I don't think you can patent Artoria. But
I think you can because like Artoria Pendragon never existed. It was Arthur Pendragon, so like,
Hmm.
But yeah, so I fuck, what was the point I was getting on? Okay, yeah. So I think that everyone should at least experience the Fate route through some means, whether it be the visual novel, the anime, the manga. Obviously the anime is not as ideal as either the manga or visual novel in this regard, but like I feel like it adds a lot of, the setup to Unlimited Blade Works. Because one thing I love about Fate Stay Night is its way to bridge a lot of different storylines and characters throughout 3 stories that are very different in content. In content, like my go-to example that I always use when it comes to showing that progression is Ilya. And I guess at this point I'll just say full spoilers from here on out because obviously this is a full spoiler discussion of Unlimited Blade Works. We will keep Heaven's Feel spoilers to a minimum, because we'll save that for when we get to Heaven's Feel. Who knows? Like, there are people watching this who probably have not experienced Heaven's Feel yet. My biggest example, like, in showing the progression of character development across the 3 routes is Ilya. Because Ilya is, like, and I might have brought this point up last time, I can't remember, but, like, I love how you get to you read the Fate route, and it's like, you get Ilya, who is very antagonistic, very, like, seemingly crazy, like, oh, I'm gonna use Berserker to, like, to kill you, Oni-chan, and I'm gonna, like, and you're gonna fucking die for Kiritsugu's sins. And so, like, you get the big battle with Ilya, and you defeat her, and Shiro takes pity on her, because it's like, oh, well, it's, this seemingly little girl. So, and, like, she probably should have never been in this Grail War to begin with. So let's take her with us. And Rin and Saber are just like, are you fucking serious? Why? Like, no, don't bring this, like, this crazy little girl who just tried to kill us back to the residence. And it's like, well, I want to take care of her. And so he does. And, like, he and Ilya form some sort of bond with one another, but it's still pretty distant, like, Ilya makes it to the end of the Fate route, but, like, you never really get to, like, learn about her. She's still an enigma in a lot of ways. It's like, okay, so she's acting really nice with Shiro, like, they get along, there's this chemistry there, but it's like, why is she so gung-ho about killing him? Why, like, is she able to switch between just, like, having this connection with him and wanting to kill him? Like, what's the deal there? It's intentional. Like, it's intentionally leaving things up in the air, as, like, Shiro feels still pretty distant to her in this route. Unlimited Blade Works then comes along, and she has the least amount of content in UBW. She's not a big focus in Unlimited Blade Works. Ilya is one of the characters who gets shunted more off to the side, but what you do get of Ilya, the small look you get into her past, and looking, like, at, like, what happened to her, like, when this Grail War began, and, like, seeing more of her mentality, you start to go, like, oh, okay, like, that puts Ilya in a whole different light. It makes you go, like, okay, this isn't just some crazy little girl who just wants revenge and wants to, like, kill Shiro, for, like, petty reasons. Like, there's something that, like seriously, like, wrong that happened with Ilya, and, like, it makes you want to learn more. It makes you want to, like, see what happened here, like, what, like, why, where did everything go so wrong, and, like, it makes you sympathize with her. It makes you go, like, damn, like, that's such a cruel fate, like, what ended up happening to her in Unlimited Blade Works. You want to see a happy ending for her. And then obviously Heaven's Feel comes around, and she's a much bigger focus, to the point where I'd say she's more like a secondary protagonist in Heaven's Feel. And, oh, sorry, a secondary heroine after Sakura in Heaven's Feel. That's the better way to put it. And that's, like, kind of the progression that I really love about Fate Stay Night. What about you? What do you guys think?
Ilya is my
Um,
precious baby girl who I love very much, and yes, I do agree that with the first route that was animated, I originally thought like, oh god, we got a brat on our hands, and you were laughing at me until we got to Unlimited Brave Works, and you were like, oh, your way of thinking about Ilya is gonna
Yeah,
change, and I'm
I
like,
was
we'll
waiting
see
for that.
about
I
that,
was waiting for that
and
because
then
I
it
was like,
happened.
because I was waiting for that because I was like, oh, I so badly want to see her reaction to I think it was like episode 16, I'm pretty sure, where like Ilya ends up dying. And like just after that episode was done, I was just like, so what do you think of Ilya now? And I'm like, I need to protect her. She needs to be protected.
She is my child, and I need to protect her. But go ahead, Zen.
I just like this is my favorite of the routes personally, and I don't think that's I don't think that's mincing any words because a lot of people really like UBW. I think it's the best animated. It doesn't cut any corners. It just has the best feel to it. I was a little bit iffy because the first half I really like, but it doesn't have quite this punch. And after episode 12, I'm like, okay, but the second half is so good that it really brings it up. So like I didn't think I would like Ilya initially, but I ended up really liking her, and I kind of understand her when like they show a little bit of her not her past, like her stuff with the castle and what she was raised to be. That was interesting. Personally though, for me what was the big sell was the stuff with Shiro, the stuff with Archer, the stuff with Rin. Like this has to be one of my favorites for several reasons. But there's so many big points to it, and so many like epic moments that are wonderfully animated by Ufotable. Um, but a lot of it is just like, okay, so we have a much better build up to where we were before. We have a much better treatment of some of these characters. We finally get stuff with Caster. We finally get a little bit more with this. So it's a much better route to me, but it really depends on you knowing stuff from Fate Stay Night. And it's like, okay, I hate that this was the one that people started with, but I really like this as an entire route.
I really like it too. I will say, so I've made it no secret. Excuse me. I've made it no secret that like my favorite route of Fate Stay Night is Heaven's Feel. I adore Heaven's
Yes.
Feel as a story. But I will say, Heaven's Feel and Unlimited Blade Works are very close as far as like quality wise is concerned. Like I like the Fate route, like as like strictly speaking from the visual novel here, not any of the adaptations. I'd give the Fate route like about an 8 out of 10. I think it's a very good intro to the story, but it does very much strictly focus on like Saber and Shiro. All the other characters, are very surface level in the Fate route, and that's kind of by design because the Fate route is like the one that leans into the battle royal aspect of everything like the most. It leans into like everyone being like shrouded in secrecy. Like we need to find who the masters are and who the servants are, and like you get the big battles with them. And all the while, our big focus character wise is on Saber and a little bit on Shiro, whereas Unlimited Blade Works is where we get all like a lot more of that development. I'd say that Unlimited Blade Works focuses a lot of its attention on the servants, and Heaven's Feel focuses a lot of its attentions on the it focuses a lot of its on the masters. Yeah, it focuses a lot of its focus on the masters, and I love kind of the parallel between Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel. Nasu a lot of the time has described the order of things as like the Fate route is the question of like this is regarding Shiro's ideals specifically. He says that the Fate route is like the question, Unlimited Blade Works is the answer, and Heaven's Feel is the application. And I really like looking at it from that regard because we get all of this philosophical content with Shiro and Archer debating Shiro's ideals, and I kind of love and respect for a big, like story, like focusing, because like, Shiro's ideals are very like, on the surface level, they feel very like shonen protagonist in that,
Yes, I do agree.
I want to save everyone. I want everyone to like, I want to make have a world where like no one has to suffer and everyone can be saved. And I really
The optimistic hero.
yeah, and I really respect Nasu for, looking into those ideals. And the ultimate answer is, like, when asking the question, can Shiro's ideals actually work? Like, can they practically work? His answer to that question is no. No, they can't practically work. Like, it's like, when looking at things realistically, Shiro's ideals are not only, they're not only flawed, but they're actively self-destructive to Shiro himself as a person. And I really respect him for that, because when I was reading the Fate route for the first time, I was admittedly a little more annoyed at Shiro than I am now, because I was like, I legitimately thought the visual novel was trying to say that Shiro acting in a self-destructive manner, like tossing himself into danger at any means necessary, was a good thing. Like, because, he's the shonen protagonist hero of the day, and like, he's gonna run in and like save the day. I thought that like Nasu was giving Shiro a pass on that, but in actuality, he was doing it more so as a way to set up the fact that like this was gonna be Shiro's big conflict throughout the remaining two routes. And I love that. It's such an interesting deconstruction of that kind of hero in anime, and I love it so much. Like, what do you guys think?
What I think is, again, this is Shiro's route, and I liked Shiro well enough in the Saber route, but that was much more to me of focusing on Saber's ideals rather than his. And I think what really works about this is that it kind of lays it out a lot better. It's not that he wants to save everyone, he just doesn't, he can't stand to see suffering, mostly because he has survivor's guilt. Mm-hmm. And his thing is that, yeah, I may have to suffer, but I want to be able to save people who are in front of me, because I should have that ability. Like, I should at least try, because my life was saved. And it's like, he knows he's going to have to go through the suffering. He understands that. But if he can save just one person, that's worth it for him. I think like the best thing for me is like, him saying, that's hell you're walking into. You know that, right? He's like, yeah. But if at the end I can find some peace, that's what I'm going to end up with. And it's like saying, like, yeah, it's not a realistic ideal. It's not realistic, but who cares if it's realistic or not? It's my path. I'm going to walk it, and I want to make sure that people don't cry because of stuff that happens around them. And yeah, people are going to take advantage of me. I knew all along that people are taking advantage of me. But I'm here so that their lives can be better. I'm not doing it out of self-loathing. I'm just doing it to help people.
Go ahead. Sorry, finish your point.
He's like a hero in the purest sense of the term.
Yeah, it's like, in a lot of ways, like when you look at it like from a surface level, Shiro doesn't really like change as a character from where he starts in Unlimited Blade Works and where he ends in Unlimited Blade Works. But I feel like where that character development comes from is in his contentment. Like, because, there's that scene where, like, he's looking at Archer during their fight and says, like, if this is the path, like, if this is the path I'm destined to walk, then my heart's gonna shatter, which is such a fucking powerful line. And like, because he's looking at his path and is like, God, so like all my work to like try and save others is all basically gonna be for nothing. Just, it's gonna lead to more death and more death and more death and more death. And like, it's gonna be a path that's like not well like not well spent, but like his contentment comes from the fact that like, you know, even if this isn't a realistic ideal, even if it's a hypocritical ideal, even if it is a stolen ideal, it is one that I cherish because like seeing the face of Kiritsugu as he saved the life of Shiro, like the only person he was able to save in that fire 10 years ago, like bringing him salvation, like that's the salvation that Shiro wants out of life. That is like to see people happy and to see them like being able to like live another day, like that's what Shiro wants out of life. And even if it can't bring a perfect world, even if he can't bring a world that is like the perfect version of like what it can be, he's gonna still try and like, you know, and strive for that future because like it's just a future that like everyone would ideally want to live in, one where no one has to cry, where no one has to suffer. And I think that that really works. I think the big thing that's still left hanging by the end of Unlimited Blade Works is, you know, Rin's big point throughout the route of like, you need to think for yourself, you need to think about your own life, you need to think selfishly once in a while, because it's like you can't live for yourself if you keep thinking about others. And I feel like that in a lot of ways is what Heaven's Feel is about, and I can't wait to get to that in the Heaven's Feel route. But yeah, I love the ideal talk in this route.
Like, I'm gonna hand it over to Tifa in a second, but I just like the thing is, this is very much a story about thematically self-loathing, about how hit a path that he could have gone on and how that ended up. And we're on spoilers at this point, so just again, major spoilers. Archer is a future version of Shiro Emiya. And the fight between Archer and Shiro is one of the best parts of this entire thing because it fully encapsulates both of their ideals. He knows the end result of what he's going into is going to end like that, but he ultimately decides, I'm still going to keep trying. And, like, it has this trolley problem effect with, like, Shiro constantly says, like, I want to save everybody, but if you're not there, there are some people you can't save. And he has to realize that. But in this route, he says, look, I may end up like that, but I'm not that now. And I'm going to keep fighting it so that I can save people who need to be saved. And it's such a powerful thing for me. It's not the most powerful part in the entire thing, because there's one more we'll talk about later, but like, Phil, like when I got to that fight and I saw him facing down himself, to me that's like, I mean, I battle with depression, I battle with self-loathing, and that's such a powerful message, a powerful moment of how you can defeat your own self-loathing, and I love it. I love it.
It's so good, and like Ufotable did such a good job with that fight. Like that in the visual novel is one of the best fights in the entire VN. Like it is in contention for the best fight of the visual novel. It is that damn good. There's only like one or two fights in Heaven's Feel that I think like rival it as like probably my favorite fights of the VN. And then there's also one fight which is in a bad ending of all things, which still ends up being really fucking good. But we'll get to that in Heaven's Feel. I love just everything to do with that fight, and I find it funny that, and a little bit sad that like I had done such a good job at like keeping things under wraps, because you were like really like I
was convinced it was Kiritsugu. I was convinced that like it was Kiritsugu back.
I was keeping that at the back of my mind because I was like, oh, she thinks it's Kiritsugu, like how close she actually is, you know, to the truth. And then Tifa posted this one Senpapi Gabe short, he's a TikToker who Tifa and I follow. He posted this one short in our group chat of like explaining Fate Stay Night to a newbie. And it literally starts with, okay, so this is Archer, but that's not his real name, is it? What's his real name? Shiro Emiya. I thought this was Shiro Emiya. And it's like, I saw that. I'm like, Tifa, delete that. And like, it was too late because Zen had already seen the start of it. And I'm like, God damn it.
To be fair, and yes, I should have asked first. That was on me. But at the same time, okay, my brain works as this. Sometimes when I see something, I just assume like, oh, I bet the others have already seen it. I'm going to share it. As in like the original source material. They've seen the original source material, so I can share this hee hee ha ha little TikTok video or YouTube short or whatever. I can share it. And then that happened and I was like, shit, I forgot to ask.
You gotta
Still,
ask.
it wasn't that bad of a spoiler because by that point, like I kind of worked out when he started being able to use the stance and the abilities, like the daggers. Honestly, part of the problem I have with Deen 2006 is they foreshadow it too hard.
I will say, like, I wouldn't have had him use Kansho and Bakuya in the 2006 anime. I think that was a little, like, going a little too far. I like, maybe it would have been fine if they hadn't shown Archer using Unlimited Blade Works during his fight with Berserker in that anime, but, like, I don't know, like, something had to give there. But, like, yeah, I think that this is, like, one of the, like, you know, the best plot reveals going into the visual novel. And like on my end, like reading the VN for the first time, I was like half spoiled on it because I knew that Archer was quote unquote the heroic spirit Emiya, but which Emiya I didn't know. I didn't know if it was Kiritsugu. I didn't know if it was Shiro. So that was basically my thing. It's like, okay, so
you were like the same reasoning I had, basically.
Yeah. So like I was like, I was spoiled technically, but like I didn't know which one. I didn't know, is this Shiro or is this Kiritsugu? And as UBW went on, I was like, all right, it's becoming pretty clear that it's Shiro. So yeah, but yeah, I don't think it really impacted anything. I think you still got a lot of the same feel from the story regardless. It's a story that works really well even if you know the details going in.
Tifa, what do you think?
I still feel sad that I shared that spoiler.
It's okay. I bust your guts about it, but like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, that right now we're laughing about it, but at the time I was like, dang it, and you're like, Tifa, you could have asked, and I'm like, yeah, I know. We're just making a joke about it currently because it's like, haha, content. And aside from that, the two of you are very, very eloquent compared to me, which I'm very envious of. And also, not to mention, Phil, you are pretty much drenched in the whole Fate Stay Night, all of... I'm skipping on the words, my apologies. You are drenched in all of that information from Fate Stay Night, from all of the routes, which, again, I'm pretty envious of, because it makes me think like, oh, it's kind of like how I get into like deep diving into my favorite movies and get all of the details, like with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I'm not gonna start talking about because we're not gonna talk about that.
We'll be here all day.
And if exactly, we would be here all day. So I'm putting a block on my ass. But I do like how you like mentioned earlier how it's a question and then the execution with these three routes. And you are correct with when you said that it's Shiro like low key and also like self-destroying himself because of his ideals, very like trying to be this optimistic young man while trying to be like this symbol of righteousness, the symbol of being a warrior of justice, which he repeats throughout Unlimited Blade Works. I don't remember if he repeated it as much in the first route, in the first anime, but I
he
do
very
remember
much
with
did.
this one. Okay, thank you. And yeah, we already got the spoiler that about Archer and who he is. Like that is the other side of the coin, where it's like, yeah, he had the same ideals, but because of what happened to him, by trying to uphold those ideals, he just changed. A lot of people would say like, oh, it's kind of like with Batman and the Joker. He's like, Shiro's just one bad day away from becoming the worst person ever, and blah blah blah. Which it's possible, because we've seen this example with Archer, and it is destructive. It is okay to have those ideals, but to die for them is not ideal. Using the other word, like the ideals, but it's not ideal, and etc. Because I'm also like a very like I try to be positive, especially in current day situation which we're not going to talk about, and I understand where Shiro is coming from, but at the same time, I can see where it has faults, because you cannot, by any means, think that everybody is good. Yes, they can have a shred of goodness in them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be good. We've seen it with a lot of the characters, especially, like, for example, the original Master for Caster, which, fuck him. And
Yeah.
and then how Caster got her new master, and how that ended up, and I was like, okay, that I can see like the good parts of that, but also the negative parts, etc., etc. And with Shiro, it's like, my dude, it's good that you have this ideal, but you also gotta tone it down a bit.
I will say, like, I am very defensive when it comes to Shiro as a character, because, like, I've seen, like, and it's much quieter now than it used to be, but I have seen, like, a subset of people who are like, oh, Shiro's a boring character. He's such a bland...
No, he's not.
He's such a bland self-insert character, you know, like the typical, you know, shonen protagonist kind of feel. And, like, one particular take that I've seen from someone that we all used to know, won't mention them, but I was talking to them about this a few years ago, and they were like, oh, Archer becomes a worse character because, like, Archer's such an interesting character, but then he becomes worse because they make him a future version of Shiro to tie it into, like, his struggles. And I'm like, do you not see, like, what you're saying, though? Like, it's because of Archer that Shiro is as interesting of a character as he is. Like, I don't get that kind of mindset. Like,
yeah, I don't get it either. Like, it's thematic. Like, I really like they make Archer a lot more villainous starting in this arc, and you're like, okay, is he the antagonist? And it's like, oh, like, a lot of it is him battling against his own self doubts, and it's thematic, and it works so well. But oh my god, there's so many things that people just don't get. But I think what really works about Unlimited Blade Works, especially more than Fate Stay Night, better than the Deen, it doesn't rush through the start like 2006 did. 2006 rushes through, and while it covers the same beats in the first half, it sets up things in a much better way of this is how things are, and then it changes things up and it does things in a different way. We finally get to learn Caster's Pass. We finally get, like, all these different players, and I'm just gonna say right now, Lancer is best boy. Lancer is one of the best characters, and he doesn't get enough love because every single time he appears and does a fight, or every single time he appears and saves, like, Rin or someone, I'm like, man, he deserves so much better.
Lancer gets the most that he does in Unlimited Blade Works compared to all the other routes, and, like, he's such a fun presence. Like, he's not, like, the most like he's not the most important of characters, at least not for Stay Night. I know the like of all the servants, the two characters who get a lot more in Hollow Ataraxia are Lancer and Ryder. The two of them get a lot of development in Hollow Ataraxia, and I can't wait for you guys to experience that one of these days. But yeah, like God, like Lancer gets a lot of good moments. Caster has a really nice story that gets expanded upon a lot in the anime adaptation. And I feel like that's a good segue to get into like a lot of the additions that this adaptation makes. Some of which can be a little divisive. I myself don't like one change in particular. But for the most part, I actually think the Unlimited Blade Works adaptation does a really good job of adding details to the original story, because oftentimes with visual novel adaptations, they are like they are so short for time. They are like very much crunched for time because there is so much information that you got to get across from a visual novel to an anime, and they just hardly ever have the time. With Unlimited Blade Works, it was in this very weird situation where they maybe had a little bit too much time on their hands, because like, you know, the anime is like 25 episodes plus episode 0, which that makes 26, and 3 of the episodes are double the length. So that's basically like 29 episodes worth of content to cover one route of the visual novel. And it's the shortest route of all 3 of them, which is very funny to me. And so as a result, there are like little bits here and there which get expanded upon. One of those being Caster's backstory. And I think that Caster's backstory is expanded really well in the anime adaptation.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
In the visual novel, all we really see is like we get the explanation of like, you know, how she killed her master. But it's like it's an explanation done like while she's in the rain. Like while she's like crawling in the rain and she's like about to die. And like she's thinking back about how she was summoned and how like she killed her master, and then Kuzuki finds her and he brings her in, and so like that's what her backstory is in the visual novel, and it works. It works pretty well. It's like it's a good backstory for her, but the anime makes it even better by showing that entire situation with, I forget his name, I'm not going to remember his name, but like her previous master, who's voiced by
that guy,
who's voiced by Goro Akechi, and like
I forgot it was Goro Akechi, that fucking trash man. I'm not gonna spoil anything.
And so like we get that entire flashback, and like we see like what Caster is all about, and I really love that. It's a nice expansion to her character that fits perfectly in line with how her story was in the visual novel. We get an expanded version of the epilogue, where in the visual novel, the true ending, the true ending epilogue, it's largely like the classroom scene where, you know, Shiro and Issei are like going to the graduation, and Rin takes Shiro to the classroom. They have that talk about going to London, and Shiro's like, of course, you know, I'm going to say yes. And then, you know, it ends there, and we get the post-credit scene for the answer, where it's like from Archer's point of view. But the anime expands it to actually show them going to London and like, you know, having a little bit of fan service with Luvia, who is Rin's rival in the Mages Association, and also showing
Polly Ship,
and also showing Waver from Fate Zero, now in his Lord El Malloy the second appearance, which we'll get to that one day. God, I can't wait to talk about Waver in Fate Zero. He's such a fun character. Also, adult Waver is really hot. He's very sexy, and I like him a lot. But like, I think
you're gay and you love boys.
boy kisser. But my point being that the expanded epilogue does a lot to like tie up a lot of the characters a bunch, showing how Shiro can't fully be a part of the Mages Association because like he has his own ideals and his own goals that he wants to accomplish. And I really love most of what gets added to the anime. There's only one thing I don't really like, but I'll save that for a second. I want to ask you guys what you thought of the expanded content.
Okay, so I'll go and I'll let Tifa go a little bit more later, but I looked up his name, Atrum Galliasta, the first master of caster.
Yeah.
What I like about how they expanded this was they showed that so many of these people in the Mages Association are assholes, and he basically is upset that he drew the wrong card, and he does not care. Like he's just going to force her to be like that, and he's like a womanizer and all this other stuff. And I love how like Caster is humanized in this, and he kills her own master because he's trying to use like I think children and stuff to fuel things.
He was really like a shithead, and like I want to bring up this point right now because like there's a little Easter egg in there where he says, "Oh, El Malloy didn't take it seriously in the last Grail War," and without spoiling Fate Zero, I will say like El Malloy, the first El Malloy, not Waver, the first El Malloy in Fate Zero, who was a part of that Grail War, like he was a dickhead. But, like, he didn't do anything, like, at least to memory, he didn't do anything that was, like, morally reprehensible. And the way that, like, he was taken out was very, like, unfair to him in a lot of ways. Meanwhile, this fucking dickhead is doing, like, this really awful shit and, like, also didn't actually, like, get started in the Grail War to begin with. So it's like, yeah, fucking rip bozo.
Like, I love how it humanizes Caster. I love how she's mostly getting revenge for other people, and like he uses the command seals against him, and it's such a great scene, and it showcases her like she may be devious, but she's doing this for people. Like she's not doing it for like the people who are out to serve her, and like there's a lot of really good things with Caster. It really puts into perspective, especially when she steals Saber away. There's stuff there, but like the additions that they add here are great. As for the ending,
and I just wanted to add it.
Sorry. I actually was gonna pass it on to Tifa very briefly before you talk about the ending, because I will say, like, of all the heroic spirits in Fate Stay Night, Medea was the one I knew the least about going into Stay Night. Like, I saw like that, like the reveal happened where I was like, oh yeah, she's the, you know, heroic spirit from Greece, Medea, and I was like, all right. And in my head, I'm just like pretends to know who that is.
Oh, honey.
And like, you know, and so that was a very big learning experience for me, like learning who Medea was. Whereas Tifa had the exact opposite reaction, where she was like, "Oh my god, I know Medea, I know who that is," and like, and so seeing her like getting into that was like really fun. So like, no, like actually knowing like Medea's history, like, what did you think of her representation in this show, Tifa?
I was about to like comment on that about how like when you showed me these episodes and we got to that part where the fuckboy, whose name I'm not even gonna try to remember, the Caster's first master, and I saw you get to see like him getting lost in this like cavern with wall paintings and such, when it's like, I think it's inside his head or something, but in the wall paintings you see Medea's history, if you know her like her lore, her myth, because I think it was a few weeks before you showed me these episodes, I think, I could be completely wrong, when Overly Sarcastic Productions made their own video of Medea summarized, of her myth, and with that I was like, oh my god! Like, seriously, I had her information locked in because of that video. And so when we saw that, I was like, oh, I know who she is. Oh my god. This painting means this painting is this other one, and like Princess of Colchis, and also the reference to the dragon's teeth, and so on and so forth, and how she like, oh, you know how in a future scene they mention like, oh, Castor and Berserker don't get along, and I'm like, oh, I know why. Because of something at the Argo, which they mentioned, and I'm like, so yes, I was very excited to see that it was Medea, because I think when you showed me the Studio Deen version, I was not familiar with Medea until Unlimited Blade Works, I think.
So, I just heard something drop downstairs. I wonder what that was. So in the Deen anime, they reveal Medea's identity early, which they shouldn't have done, because that's not where her identity is meant to be revealed. But they didn't really go into her the same way that they did in the UBW anime. So that's how that operated, essentially.
Mm. Well, like I mentioned, I don't remember if I was familiar with her story before the Unlimited Blade Works version, but yeah, I was very excited. Maybe. I'll have to recheck when we saw that anime and when the Medea summarized was released in order to be like more aligned. But anyways, I do really like how we get to see her backstory, because it explains a lot from her, and especially if you know about her myth, because she's just fucking tired, man. She like, yeah, she uses her powers to the best of her abilities, even when she was helping out Jason, which Jason is a bit of a bitch. Well, not a bit of a bitch, he's a big asshole. If you read like the myth. So it really does explain that she's just crashing out. She's just like so fucking done with people. And when that event happened with her first master, I'm like, yep, crash out, queen, crash out. We support women's rights and women's wrongs.
Yeah, you had definitely said that a couple of times throughout the watch through.
We support trans rights and trans wrongs if they don't give us rights.
That too. Heck
so
yeah.
What did you want to say regarding the endings then?
Well, first of all, Eliza has something she wants to say about Medea, because she's the one who she knows everything about mythology when we were watching, so she wanted to say a couple of things.
I know a lot about mythology and history, which is why I pretty much guessed every single heroic spirit as soon as they got introduced, except for Ryder, which I guess was a Gorgon, but I could not figure out which one until towards the very end.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the greatest things about Medea is the fact that if you notice how she's reacting to certain characters, every single time Catherine's reacting to a male character that acts like they're higher than other people, she acts really harsher to them than any others, because the biggest thing in the Medea story is the fact of how she's constantly used and abused by men.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
That's what I mean. Like her crash out is fucking valid in this series.
And it makes an interesting amount of sense that like Assassin is just kind of a pawn to her, and she summoned it as her servant, and she doesn't care because it's a guy. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. But on that same note, I really like how they humanize Hercules in this arc with like how he saved Ilya, and like show that like he's not just a berserk monster. He's there to protect her, and like there's so many little things.
I will say, because I don't know if we'll get another chance to talk about Caster, I do love how in all of the supplementary material that strictly features the Stay Night cast, so that includes Holo Ataraxia, the today's menu for the Emiya family, Carnival Phantasm, like, because in Stay Night itself, you know, we get the, like, you know, we get it explicitly said that, you know, Caster loves Kuzuki, you know, like by the end, like when she's dying, you know, like he's like, you know, don't worry, I will help you fulfill your goal even after your death. And Caster says, you know, I don't think that's possible, because this very moment my wish was granted, because obviously she loves Kuzuki. She loves this man, and it's very serious, it's very somber, it's very it's very sweet and tragic in all supplementary material with Holy Orthodoxia, Today's Menu for the Emiya Family, Carnival Phantasm, all that stuff. Caster is like madly in love with Kuzuki. Like they ramp it up so much where she's like Soichiro-sama, like like really like being lovey-dovey towards Kuzuki. It's really sweet. It's really fun. Like it's fun how they take this like deadly serious like character in Stay Night who does a lot of wrongs. Like she strings Saber up like fucking BDSM style, like, and then all this stuff. She does a lot of wrongs in the main series. And then in all the supplemental material, they make her like the biggest love-struck housewife. It's really funny.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Fate Stay in the Kitchen, also known as Carnival Phantasm, or today's menu for the Emiya Family and Carnival Phantasm. But Unlimited Blade Works, I think the stuff that they really add is great. They really humanize Caster to the point where I got her finally. And I love the ending to the point where we finally got to see the Mages Association and that they're not all dickheads. And that, there's some rogues, but there's a lot of them and you have to go through certain things to train. And like, the way the visual novel had presented mage families made them feel isolated. But I like it here where it's like, okay, not everyone is going to participate in the war. Not everyone is going to do this. We try to do this to make sure that magic isn't abused. It's just we can't be everywhere at once. And I like that they showcase this. I like that they help Shiro, and there's certain things about the ending that I really, really love. And I think as a finale, it did its job great. Did they use a little bit more of their time than they could have? Yeah. But Deen used way more time on Caster, and they didn't go as hard or as well as this. And this is why I'm saying it's like, it's a shame that I watched the Deen Stay Night because they spoiled Kuzuki reveal, they spoiled a little bit about Caster, but it's done so much better here that I don't even care.
Yeah, I will say it's very funny to me that, like, you mentioned that the Mages Association, like, we get to see a little bit more of them at the end there. It's like they're very much a group that is shrouded in a lot of mystery. I can't wait to read Witch on the Holy Night, because that's an entire visual novel that goes into the minutia of of magecraft and mages in this world. So I really can't wait to get into that. The one thing I did want to say regarding the changes, the one change I wasn't a fan of, it's basically, as an adaptation, it's only it's the really only big strike against this adaptation. The other one would probably be maybe they didn't include as much of Shiro's inner monologue as they could have in the adaptation. But the thing about that is I see a lot of people complaining about that. I think they did about as much as they probably could. Because getting inner monologues out in a concise manner, getting inner monologues out in a concise manner in an anime adaptation is very hard without putting bringing down the pace of the anime to a screeching halt. So I sympathize with any visual novel adaptation that needs to get that information out in a concise manner. But the only change that I think is actually okay, I wouldn't have had that in the anime at all, is when they go into Ilya's backstory, they add a lot more to to what happened over the last 10 years since Fate Zero. And that in of itself is fine, except without getting into spoilers for Zero or Heaven's Feel, they have her be visited by the contents of the Holy Grail, which take the image of her mother, Iris Feel. And I had always interpreted Ilya's descent these past 10 years as like isolation having gotten to her. Like, you know, no one being there for her. You know, she didn't her mother's gone, her father's gone. Like, she's in this mansion all by herself. The other Einsburns don't give a shit about her, so she barely sees them. Like, she is literally like on her own most of the time over this last decade. She is like isolated, and like she let these thoughts of like, why did my father abandon me, like why is he gone, why is he not here, she let those fester for years and years and years, only to find out later, oh, Kiritsugu ran off to Japan and has a different child with Shiro, and now he's dead. And so like that really sent her over the edge. And like, you know, like it's a lot of like isolation played a big part of it, whereas like the anime adaptation makes it a little more black and white in the sense of like she's actively told by the Grail that like, hey, you know, you were abandoned by Kiritsugu. Kiritsugu didn't love you. He went to have a different child from you, like in Japan. And like that played a big role in like her descending a lot sooner than I kind of anticipated. And like I didn't really like that, to be clear. I think there's a lot of stuff in that backstory that got expanded upon that I think works. Like, you know, her going in that like pool of homunculus and like seeing all of them just like have the energy sucked from them, and it's like, why are you just throwing your lives away, you know, like why are you just like why are you just like this isn't fair to you guys? And they're like, you know, please don't cry, child, you know, we're doing this all for you, like this is all for your sake. And like it's really sad, it's really emotional, but it's like I just wish they didn't have that bit with Iris Feel. Like I feel like that kind of like it didn't ruin all the build up with Ilya's character, but it did like act as like an unnecessary bit to the puzzle.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like the point where I really started to like Ilya as a character was that homunculus bit, and I really started to feel for her, especially because she doesn't survive the route. But it's just like you see the pain she's had to go through to put these circuits inside of her throughout these many years, and like all these people around her don't seem to care about her, and even the homunculus, even though they are unfeeling, they seem to care about her more than anything. It's such a powerful thing. I do agree, though, that like having this random character that's not explained unless you've seen Fate Zero does not help, and it makes it kind of confuses it for other audiences.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of plays into like a lot of people viewing this as a sequel to Zero, but it's like the thing is, the rest of the adaptation does a really good job of like, sure, it references Zero in the sense of like, you know, it came previously like in the timeline. But the thing is, a lot of the flashbacks that they show of like, you know, the ending of the Fourth Holy Grail War, like those were things we already knew from the visual novel. And like, you know, and everything else that pertains to Zero is like is purely cameos or Easter eggs. You know, like the mention of El Malloy, that's an Easter egg. Waver popping up, that's a cameo. It's like it's not necessary information that you need going into this. And like, so this one bit with Iris Field just kind of acts as like this very odd exception where it's like if you haven't seen Zero, you're gonna get a little bit less out of this because it's like you don't know who this is.
Yeah, and it kind of goes against the idea of her slowly going insane. And what I like about Ilya's character in this is that you see that she's grown resentment against Kiritsugu specifically because of all the pain she's been through, all of this stuff that's built up, and she's isolated and she's internalized things. But it's Shiro that brings her out of it because she thought Shiro would be this person that she's built up to be an awful person in her head to destroy. And when she finds out she's wrong, and she might have been wrong about Kiritsugu, a lot of it comes crumbling down. And it's like it humanizes her, even though she doesn't have a huge role in this arc. And I like that.
It's like I think it's really tragic in this route where it's like Shiro didn't even get to like know who she was to any degree. And to like, you know, and that'll persist throughout all of time. Like he'll never know that he had this like sister that was like the biological daughter of like of his like, you know, of his surrogate father. I will also say regarding Ilya, it's like I get a little annoyed when people like look at her personality from like from a surface level, where it's like, oh, you know, she's just, and I apologize for using this word, like, you know, she's just lolly bait, like, you know, she's like, you know, very childlike and innocent. It's like, and I do get the annoyance there. I think a large part of it comes down to also Prisma Ilya being the way it is, and I'm not looking forward to getting to that eventually.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah,
One thing to understand though is that she is older than everyone.
she is, but like it's not even just that. It's the fact that like every time we get to see like the real Ilya, essentially, we see that like she puts up so many masks. You know, like her being this like like this seemingly psychotic, I want revenge, like little girl type, like that's a mask. Her being like overly like childlike with Shiro specifically, you know, and going like, oh, Oni-chan, like, you know, all that stuff, like that's a mask. Every time we've seen the real Ilya, she's really mature. She's really, you know, like she's really grounded, and it paints this picture of a very lonely character. Like someone who has to put these masks up of either being really crazy or really childlike, because otherwise, you know, when you get a look at who she is just under it all, you see someone who, like, you know, had their childhood taken away from them because like she was never able to have a life of her own. So all she can do is pretend to be someone who she's not. And I really find that very tragic about her character, you know?
He's a character who was not allowed to live.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, everything was stolen from her. She had parents who were stolen from her, childhood stolen from her. She was forced to go through all this pain just for the Holy Grail War that she, you know, her parents were no longer able to help her through. And like she finds out she has this brother, and like she goes through all of these emotions, and I feel like she is a very mature person. Again, she's older than most of the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
And she's an artificial human, but people do like there are people in real life who are built short stacks.
Well, she's
like
she is half artificial, to be clear. Iris Feel, it's funny because Iris Feel like is completely artificial, and by the time the story of Fate Zero takes place, I'm pretty sure she's like barely even double digits in age. Like it's very funny in that regard because like she is completely artificial, whereas Ilya is half artificial because like she was actually birthed through Kiritsuga and Iris Wheel conceiving her. So
yeah. She was part human as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think one thing I want to bring up, and this is I'm not going to dwell on it, but like I have friends who are 5'1", who are my age, you know, like who are in their like 30s. Cat, short stack. People can be built in very different ways, and sometimes it's like a disease, but she's half artificial human.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a problem in showing how her lost childhood and how her pain and development were made in this way. And I think that people who read too much into it, who have only seen Prisma Ilya, get the wrong thing out of it. But
I'm gonna be real. Like, I haven't seen most of Prisma Ilya. I am not looking forward to getting into it because it's like, especially the anime adaptation for that has greatly soured the way in which most most people talk about Ilya as a character. It's really like it really, and don't get me wrong, like I get it, because Prisma Ilya is like not good in a lot of its content. But like
I just feel like people miss nuance where it is, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to go forth when you like. Obviously, you're presented this character who looked childish. When I first saw the first, what was it, Taiga Dojo Sensei segment, I was a little bit iffy, but you start to understand
the Boruma.
Yeah, the Baruma. But like you start to understand her character and you realize, oh, okay. But like that's just it. I think that's what Nasu is doing. And again, Eliza's saying she dated someone in high school and college who is 4'9". People are built differently, and we should
Yeah.
honor sword stacks.
I will say though, one big benefit about not getting that scrapped Ilya route is that we didn't have to see a freaking H scene between her and Shiro. It's like, that's your fucking sister, mate. That's your fucking sister.
Yep, thank God.
It's not even a Suki. Well, okay, no, I'm actually not going to get into that because that's big spoilers. But
We're not going to get to spoilers for Tsukihime, but I'm not looking forward I'm not looking forward to, yeah.
But I consider the case between Ilya and Shiro to be like even worse than that, to be completely frank. But like, yeah, it's like I think Prilia Ilya and Stay Night Ilya are two very different cases. Mainly in the fact that one's a very well-rounded, very purposeful character, and the other got de-aged to being 11, even though they really didn't need to fucking do that. But that's all I'll say on that. I'm sure we'll talk about Brillier at some point.
We'll review that in the future, and I don't want to get to that, but like there's a difference in how things are presented.
Luckily,
and one is squicky and one's not.
Yeah, luckily we have so much Type Moon material to last us a fucking lifetime before we ever have to touch Prisma Ilya.
Yeah. Tifa.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Ilya is a good girl. She deserves everything in life. It does add to the pretty much. Oh God, I'm lacking on the word. I'm so sorry. It does add to the tragedy of who Ilya is, because I mean, all of the talks of like, the Grail and such, and being part, I believe it was part homunculi and part human.
Yep.
And pretty much being like deprived of so many things that essentially make her human, or just give her that experience of humanity. It just adds to more of the tragedy, including when we see the scene of the maids like being thrown into this like water like pool thing, and saying like, oh, don't be sad about us, we'll be replaced. And when she gets introduced to the current maids, she's like, no formalities, come on, we all know the drama, we all know the gist. And when we see that backstory,
I will say justice for Lace Wright and Sella, because I've been watching Nezumi VA's Fate Stay Night story time streams. She's been doing a really great job on that, on those. And I've been loving seeing her go through each of the routes. She recently finished the Unlimited Bladeworks route, and I will say, I was reminded, you don't see Lace Wright and Sella die in the visual novel. I mean, it's you could basically be assumed that that's what happened, you know, because like, you know, you only see Ilya and Berserker, but they added this whole scene where Lace Wright and Sella are protecting, you know, Ilya, like, so that Gil doesn't get anywhere near her, and you just see the most brutal fucking death for them, and I'm like, damn, man, damn, justice for Liz and Sella. They're really fun characters, to be clear.
And I love how that's the one point where like she tried to convince herself that you homunculi aren't human and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But when they get hurt, Ilya's just like freaks the fuck out. It's one of the best moments, like justice for those men.
Yeah, you hurt them for no reason. Like, I love that line so much. I like they're another pair of characters who, like, every time I see them in something else, I'm like, damn, like it's really fun to see them. They get some really fun moments in Holo Ataraxia. From the scenes I've like watched of theirs in Prisma Ilya, they seem to be like consistently like one of the better parts of that show. So yeah, it's I really love them as side characters. There's literally like no other point I would have been able to talk about Liz and Sella, so like I just want to get that out there really quickly.
Yeah. So yeah, we got expanded stuff on Castor. We got so much expanded stuff on Shiro. We got really good stuff with Ilya. Can I talk about Gil? for a bit.
Yes, I actually like because I at some point want to like get into this topic myself because this more so pertains to the visual novel because like yeah, I had some thoughts regarding Gil when I was first going through the route.
So before I go, anything else you want to say about Ilya Tifa?
Well, what I also wanted to talk about, which well, we have already talked about, regarding like her relationship with Berserker, aka Heracles, not Hercules, because Heracles is the original Greek name. Um, I am a sucker for big monstrous creature and tiny, tiny small child, especially little girl. To be perfectly frank, I am a sucker for that. And seeing how at the beginning you see Ilya like just being like, "Hey, I got the strongest one. You're gonna obey me," etc. with Berserker. And when she goes into one of the trials to test her out or whatever, um, technically she doesn't have any command seals with Berserker, does she? Or did I miss that?
I'm pretty sure her command seals are like the markings all over her body.
Yeah, the ones that appear every now and then. Yeah, true. And when she gets lost in the woods, a whole like Beauty and the Beast scene where Berserker saves Ilya from the wolves. And yes, I did associate it with Beauty and the Beast because that's my only frame of reference.
That's CG
Same.
in the visual novel of like her all bloody in like the snow, like the snowy mountains, and like and Berserker's like right there, like right over her, and like she's reaching out to him. Like that's like one of the best CGs in the route. It's so good.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to comment on, how she went from, "Oh, I'm just gonna use you for my own needs because of this freaking war," to, "Hey, we're gonna be besties in like the most positive way," because you see how Berserker is kind to her, because it reminds me of the myth where he, unfortunately, because of Hera, he killed his wife and children, and he has to atone, hence the 12 labors. And that just made me feel more for Berserker, because it just reminded me of that. And for those of you who are listening who are like, "That sounds a lot like Kratos," I'm like, well, duh.
They stole Kratos'.
I will say,
Kratos stole.
I will say, very minor thing for the Heavensfield adaptations. They do they do add that like brief shot in the Heavensfield movies where we see like Berserker's past, where like he's holding his wife and child. That wasn't in the visual novel. And so when I was watching this with one of my IRL friends, who he's Greek, and so we were watching the movie, and when he saw that pop onto the screen, he basically pogged off. He was like, "Yo, they showed that. That's really cool."
Yeah, it's because people who know the myths get excited when we see those, kind of like how I did with Medea, and just how
Grease?
Berserker would not fucking die against Gil in that fight, and oh god, how it ended with Ilya. I'm like, god damn it. Well, at the very least, we got to see like a good like scene with her, but I still feel awful for how it ended with the two of them.
Man, Greece has a really fun and interesting mythology. Stop trying to steal Macedonia's history. Anyway, not gonna get into that.
Exactly.
What I really liked is when she says like Berserker was the only one for me. It's like seeing that like connection. You saved me. You're the only one. It kind of explains a lot about why she didn't do anything in the other routes. It's like she's not trying anymore. She's not part of the fight. She's just with them. And like it just there's so many layers to this. But anyway, let's talk about Gil.
Yep.
At first, him being the final villain, I was a little bit iffy. Because like we have all these major players off the field. We have the Archer battle. But then Gil shows up and he's like, "I'm going to destroy the world and start over."
Yeah, the world is boring to me. Like, I reincarnated in this world because of the events of the last Holy Grail War and like being consumed by the contents of the Grail. And so I've been able to be born anew these past 10 years, and the result was so lacking. And so now I just want to like destroy the whole world and rebuild from the ground up. And I will say, I'm going to let you finish then, but I will say I did hear an interesting point of like, you know, and I myself am not like terribly familiar with like Babylonian you know, legend and like the whole like lore of Gilgamesh.
Yeah, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah, that's the word. The Epic of Gilgamesh. I was trying to like remember the word.
Which Overly Sarcastic Productions has made their own version for all of you who are interested, which was my frame of reference when we were watching this.
And so like I'm not terribly familiar with Gilgamesh's lore, but like I have heard it said from a mutual of mine who's also watching Nezumi streams. He kind of mentioned that like Gil in a lot of other material, and this is why he's often like referred to as chaotic good in the Fate series. Gil in other Fate properties like Grand Order and like I think Extra as well, Strange Fake, and like other Fate properties, Gil is closer to how he is earlier in the Epic of Gilgamesh versus Gil in Fate Stay Night, who is like more so like how he is after he becomes disillusioned like later on in the Epic of Gilgamesh, like later on. So I think that's an interesting point of thought. I think that that's an interesting like way of looking at Gil in Fate Stay Night. On its own, I do have like an issue that I'll bring up after you finish off, Sen.
I have a couple issues. At first, it was just like, well, we have all this, and then it's just like his motivation is not very well defined. Like, oh, I want to destroy everything because it's boring, and I've seen it done way better. But for me, like the first thing I can think of is like you're only sustained by human souls. You're only in this world because of humanity and because of soul. So if you want to restart everything, why are you doing this?
Cyrus from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and Platinum as well. It sounds like Cyrus. He's like, the world sucks. I'm gonna create my own world with blackjack and hookers.
God, I don't know.
This world isn't perfect.
I really don't fucking like Cyrus. I'm gonna be real. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, because a lot of people really like Gen 4.
Nobody likes him. Nobody likes him.
I think, well, no, because a lot of people say that, like, oh, well, you know, he's a dickhead, but he's a great villain. And it's like, I don't think he's a great villain, personally speaking.
I don't think he's a great villain either, but it's our own opinion against people. He's just horrible, and I just want to slap him.
It's like, why does anyone follow him in Team Galactic? Anyway, I'm not getting on a Pokemon discussion.
Yeah. We're not gonna go into a Pokemon discussion right now. We're focused on.
You see what I'm saying? Like his motivation seems simple, but then I started to realize he wanted to use the Holy Grail to restart everything, kind of like a new Big Bang, and like redo it to where only the strong would come out. So essentially, he's Parallax. He's trying to restart the world with only the things that he wants.
He's Xehanort.
And he values strength. He values certain things. But the thing that separates him, in one of my favorite, best parts of this entire Fate Stay Night and the Unloaded Blade Works, is when Shiro creates Unlimited Blade Works and he beats Gilgamesh at his own game, and he keeps doing that.
And I love how hesitant Gil is throughout a lot of that fight. Like, there's no way this mere mongrel is like is beating me just like that. Like, you know, like I defeated Heracles. I defeated like so many of like the strongest, you know, heroic spirits known to man. And like, you know, I'm fucking Gilgamesh. Why is this mongrel like
I'm the
besting
king
me?
of kings. And like he's like, oh no, it's just a fluke. It's just a fluke. And it's just when we learn what he says, it's like, yeah, you may be a king of kings. You may have thousands of blades and all this treasure, but you're not a master of them. I've been training, and you're in my world now. I hope you brought enough blades.
Yeah, like you have enough weapons in stock. Like, one of the best moments. It's so good. And I love one like anime detail I really love is like you see Gilgamesh go to pull out Ea at the end there, and like he hesitates for a second, like it comes out, but like you could see his arm like recoil, like should I use it? And like he goes to use it, but it's too late. Like that hesitancy cost him, because then he gets his arm cut off.
Yeah, and it's all in like, look, he has all this riches, all this power. He is the King of Kings because of the myth of Gilgamesh. However, not many people know the myths, but they don't know the strength of it, and it's all in belief. And a lot of like what Shiro is doing is like, I believe in myself more now than I believe in you. And I like that Gil is the final villain for him, because it shows that he's overcome his self-loathing, his self-doubt. Now he believes himself more than Gilgamesh in his ego. And that is important. I think that's the thing, is like, he uses this power that allows him to trick this person into losing faith in himself. And that's like, he overcomes that. That's the thing that I like about it. I think thematically, Gilgamesh really makes sense as a final battle for Shiro.
Oh yeah, no, I will say, like, yeah, I will agree to that. It's like, as much of like because like initially I was like, you finish the Archer fight, and the Archer fight is so climactic. It feels like the end of the route, and then it keeps going with Gilgamesh, and like at first it's kind of like, damn, that's like, it feels like the route should be over by this point, but I'm glad it kept going, because as like a coup de grace for the route, they bring out Gilgamesh, and the way in which he impacts Shiro, the way in which he impacts the themes of the route, works really well. And that fight at the end between Shiro and Gil is like it feels like a nice capstone to Unlimited Blade Works as a route. My big issue with it all is that, I think Gilgamesh works well for the route's themes. I think he works well for the climax. I think he works well, like really well, for Shiro as a character. Singularly, as like an individual, I think Gilgamesh in Unlimited Blade Works is pretty boring. Because
he's
like,
basic.
He's very basic. He's very basic. He's basic in comparison to like, not just his other adaptation, like not just his other inclusions in other Fate works. Like, because I think Gilgamesh works really well in Fate Zero. I think he works really well in other Fate stuff, but like, I think he like even works like less than he did in the Fate route, where it's like, and he wasn't like the most like in-depth character in the Fate route either, but like he worked well as like a mirror of Shiro in the way that he treated Saber, like the way that he treated her more as like a tool, like as an object rather than like as a person. And it kind of showed that like, it showed the change in Shiro, like allowing Saber to like, to be who she is, but also like valuing her as a person and being like, you don't have to suffer and like change the past, you can just be that girl you were when you first pulled out the sword from the stone. And like, so he worked well in that regard, and like the way he treated Showa, like the way he treated Saber showed who he was like as a person. Whereas here, all we're really left with is like, I want to bring the world down and like rebuild it, because I wasn't satisfied with what I saw when I got, reincarnated into this world. And it's like, it's fine, but like, it is very basic. I think that Unlimited Blade Works and the awkward route of Tsukihime kind of share like the one flaw I have with both of them, where it's like, and I won't go into the stuff with Awkward's route because, spoilers, but like the main villain of the Awkward route feels like he's kind of undercooked. Like, we don't get enough of him, like he's the big final bad of the route, but like it feels like we don't get enough of him. Except the difference here is that like the final villain of the Awkward route of Tsukihime gets more content in the CL route. Like, we get more expansion of him and more like, more content with him in that route. Like, his appearance in the Awkward route in a lot of ways is teeing him up for like what we get with him in the next route. Whereas here, Gilgamesh, like, this is the most Gilgamesh gets. Like, this is the most that he gets in all three of the routes, because, spoiler alert, in Heaven's Feel, we don't get much of Gilgamesh at all. So it's like I feel like that in that way it feels undercooked. Um,
I also have to say the problem with Gilgamesh is that we're presented him one way in the Fate route, and it could just be the way that Deen portrayed him, but then he's radically different in this route. And before he's like, "Oh, I want to make you my wife. I like strong people," and then it's just end the world. They do eventually explain it, not well enough, and I think that Tsukihime does a better job of explaining the mindset of these characters, whereas Gilgamesh, up until that like final thematic battle against Shiro, I was like, I don't care about him. I care about Lancer. Lancer was amazing. He saved my girl.
and I will say,
Because Lancer just sorry for interrupting. It's just that Lancer has going by only unlimited blade works, the route that we're talking about. Lancer just feels like he's just having a good old time and being like, "Hey, how's it going? You know what? I'm a little shit right now, so but you're still gonna like me. Bye bye." Compared to Gil, where I'm like, you have an agenda and I have a vibe that I'm not gonna like you.
the woke
And
the woke agenda. He just wants to live his life with his gay buddy, with his gay not gay buddy Enkidu.
Enkidu, yeah, but think that I also think that it was before the of course overly sarcastic productions, which I'm still gonna sing their sing praises for. They did the Epic of Gilgamesh Legend summarized video, which I highly recommend. I do find it a little bit sad that the anime, or better yet, just Fate Stay Night overall. Okay, I have made comments on Gilgamesh from Fate, and I'm not gonna repeat them, so don't worry. But the ones that I do want to say is that he feels like the guy who is just there for the game, and also like how he said that, "Hey, Artori, I want you to be my wife because you're strong," etc. Going by the legend summarized, I do feel like they kind of missed what's the word I'm looking for? They kind of missed the to make well, for me it made me feel like I did miss out on like the potential for Gilgamesh, like a bit of his tragedy, because going by the Epic of Gilgamesh, he had his bestie Enkidu after problems with the gods and his own people, and then Enkidu died because reasons, character development.
I will say, from everything you're saying, I think you'll really like Gil's depiction in both Fate Strange Fake, which is the animated adaptation of that's finally coming out in January, which is really nice.
Ooh.
But also the Babylonia arc of Fate Granddaughter, which luckily does have an anime adaptation fully completed. Both of those have both Gilgamesh and Enkidu. And I hear really great things about both. So I think you'll really get a lot out of like the stuff that you're explaining. I think you'll get a lot out of like that from those series.
Gotcha. Because what I was gonna mention is like like I mentioned, it feels like he's just in it for the game and just being a shit. Instead, and how I thought that Type Moon kind of missed like like the opportunity to showcase a little bit of, okay, why is he acting like this? The tragedy behind him, because Gilgamesh, he wanted to obtain immortality so that, well, I can't remember the details, but one of them was because his bestie Enkidu fucking died, and in a not in like in battle or anything, because of a sickness, and he was so like distraught. He's like, no, why did you go where I can't follow? And even after he tries to get immortality, he fails time and time again. He just comes back and just lives his life, and it's because of his bestie. Not because he was like a great king. I mean, he was great for his own merits, including some not good ones. But I think they missed out on a great opportunity. But going by what you're saying, hopefully with those new animated arcs that they're gonna make, Hopefully they do go into that because I think.
I wouldn't say
Uh-huh.
arcs because those are like just completely different stories.
Okay. Well, for those stories, hopefully they do get to play around with that side of the mythology because I mean they showed us Medea, they showed us Medea's like backstory. Well, not in detail, but if you know her myth, you see why she crashed out.
Mm-hmm.
And with Artoria, like her backstory was also cool, and with the others, I don't think we got to see much for what was she was oh god, I'm forgetting her title, but I know the name.
Ryder.
But writer, thank you. Like I don't think
Yeah.
we got to see like a little bit of her
Yeah.
backstory in
Ryder.
terms of who she is, not just like, oh, I am the servant for this person.
Backstory wise, like delving into them as characters, Ryder and Lancer get a lot in Hollow Ataraxia. Like we don't
Okay,
see,
thank you.
yeah, like we don't see their backstories in Stay Night. We don't really get to like see their past and all that stuff, just because like we only have so much time, basically.
Hmm. Yeah.
But like Hollow Ataraxia, like from the bits I've read as well, because I have not finished Hollow Ataraxia. I've gotten like around 65% of the way in, judging from the in-game percentage counter that game has. Um, like I've read a lot of the backstory parts, like the backstory scenes for Lancer and Ryder in that game, and it's really good. Like
Hmm.
they really do a good job of like getting into them as characters. I also did want to say, just going a little bit off of what I was talking about before with like comparing this to the awkward route of Tsukihime, I will also say, now going through the original Tsukihime myself, I think one benefit that Tsukihime goes through is that like it is like it does have a remake that is bolstered by like 20 years worth of hindsight, whereas Fate's Day Night has like basically stayed the same from like when it first came out in 2004. Like, you know, all versions of the visual novel are just ports and remasters, and the anime adaptations only do so much to like alter certain bits. So like it is like the same story in that regard. Um One last point I kind of wanted to bring up to talk about, because I kind of realized that, you know, this is the Rin route. We haven't really talked about Rin a whole lot in this stream, and like,
Well,
True.
that's because I was saving her for next time.
well, but that's the thing that's very interesting to me, that like, and because the thing is, I think Rin is at her best in Heaven's Feel, and we're gonna get to that. But like, I find it funny how like I like her more in Sakura's route compared to her in her own route. And like, I'm also gonna get a lot more into that when we get to Heaven's Feel, because I have a lot to say regarding Rin and Heaven's Feel. A lot of just like, I'm gonna just say I love Rin in Heaven's Feel. I love the way they alter her character and like and do a lot with her there. But just regarding her in Unlimited Blade Works, because it is technically supposed to be her route, like I definitely think people over exaggerate how much like this isn't her route. Like, you know, people will be like, oh, it's the Shiro route, it's not the Rin route. It's like, I still think Rin in a lot of ways gets a lot of really good development here. It's just that a lot of it pertains to Shiro himself. Like a lot of it pertains to like her being reactive to Shiro and his development compared to like who she is as a person singularly. But I do think that like we still get a lot of insight to her as a person through the ways in which she interacts with Shiro. Like, you know, Rin is someone who was raised with like this feeling of, you know, you got to look out for yourself. You have to, you know, you have to like grow as a person. You have to like always be moving forward in your life, like, you know, with your goals. And like to see Shiro just, you know, disregarding himself and only viewing like, you know, the happiness of others, it really irritates her. It really like makes her go, you know, like I can fix him, you know, like I can fix this poor boy. And I really love their conversations, like their conversation like after Ilya's death, and like, you know, her urging Shira like, you know, you gotta live for yourself, and like all those conversations. Like I think it really does a good job at like illustrating who Rin is at the core. But like it is hard to really get into because I want to save a lot of that stuff for Heaven's Feel as well. But did you guys have any like points about Rin that you wanted to get into?
I did. Okay, so one thing I want to bring up first before I get into what I like about Rin in this, I think that one of the main issues that I have with Rin in this anime and what I put the first portion, like the first 12 episodes lower, they really moeified Rin in the Ufotable adaptation. And what I mean is there's several episodes that just cutesify her. And like she's supposed to be the ice queen, and yeah, like there she has reactions and whatnot, but part of the problem that I have with her reactions in this is her moe blushing and like the way she like walks and twirls. They do the Ilya thing with her sometimes. And I get that you have expressive animation. You showed it. It's great. It's so much better than Deen. But they too moeify her, and I feel like that takes a lot away from her character in the first half. Like they really show that.
I don't think it takes away from her necessarily. I do think that they definitely downplay a lot of her, a lot of her matureness. Like, they zone in a lot to the they zone in a lot to the tsundere aspect. And like the thing is, like, Rin, from like, the basic definition of the word is a tsundere, but I think a lot of my annoyance when it comes to those, like the term tsundere and yandere and like all the deres, is a lot of people will like be quick to just like pigeonhole characters within those boxes and not really view them as characters outside of that. I think a big case of that is like is Shion from Higurashi, which like, a lot of people label her as a yandere, and it's like, yeah, in a lot of ways she is, but to just like simplify her down to just being that is very like uncharacteristic to like who she is as a character, or like not uncharacteristic. It's very like it's tossing a lot of the nuance away from her character. I feel like a lot of people do that with Rin as well, where they only view the tsundere aspect of her character, and they don't really look at the fact that like Rin can be a little shit a lot of the time. Like she can be like
she's a gremlin, and that's the thing. Like here's my thing. I read the first third of Fate Stay Night, and from that prologue, I got a very good example of who Rin was. She's petty. She's very much a gremlin child. She wants things to happen a certain way. They don't happen because she's unlucky. And she throws a fit, and then she gets over it.
My favorite.
Yeah, she has those moments.
One of my favorite Rin moments that kind of shows how much like of a goober she can be in her own right is like the start of Fate Holo Ataraxia comes. This is literally like near the start, and she has the whole incident where like she causes the three routes to kind of like merge together, and like the Grail War starting up again, and like yada yada yada, and like she gets in trouble with the Mages Association, and like she kind of like it kind of hard cuts to like one moment to like one morning where she goes up to Shiro with this like downtrodden face, and she's just like, Emiya, please get me a job. like she's a fucking like goober. She's like, but I also like how much she teases Shiro herself. Like I feel like she teases Shiro more than Shiro teases her. And like, but I also like how much of a mentor figure she can often be. She walks a nice tightrope between tsundere, gremlin, really mature, and really cold and badass, but also kind of scary in a lot of ways. And like, yeah. I feel like she's such a well-rounded character, and I can understand how like the anime maybe swings a little bit more in the tsundere aspect in like the way they animate her. At the same time, I also would be lying if I said I didn't get a kick out of a lot of the expressiveness that they give her.
What my problem is, in the like, there are parts when she's walking, she does a little childish twirl, and she does certain things, and I'm just like, they don't feel like her. And it's not like that. It's not like I don't like how she's expressive, but I feel like they go too far in several points of the anime. But the second half, her relationship with Shiro is wonderful. It's just like she has these aspects. I'm not saying she doesn't. I think they're just overplayed because we have this animation studio. They're here for the girls, and I'm like, Rin's my favorite character in the entirety of the series. I get it. But there are certain points where, like, oh, she's doing a little twirl or doing this thing or blushing or, like, certain things. And I'm just like,
I will say, in a lot of regards, like, even though I love Heaven's Feel and it's my favorite route of the visual novel, I will say the Unlimited Blade Works anime of the 3 adaptations is probably the best one. Like, I think, I like the Heaven's Feel adaptation, but there's definitely a lot more issues with that than there is with the UBW one.
oh yeah, heavily issues that I have.
Yeah, but the I will say, like, I think this aspect of Rin is, like, not really present in Heaven's Feel. I think in Heaven's Feel, like those movies, like the depiction of Rin in those movies is basically how Rin is. Like they I think they get her right in the Heaven's Feel movies as far as, like,
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, in the Shira route, she should be pining for him, but I think they gave her the Moe stuff a little bit too early. It just like they wanted the fan service. Okay, here the second half is perfect
cuts to
in terms of Rin.
cuts the Rin wriggling her butt, like, in the air.
Yeah, like, just there are things that I disagree with that they do with Rin in the first half. Second half is perfect, but overall, this is my favorite of the anime. In terms of there's less that I have to bitch and moan about because I think it's a great adaptation. Again, I haven't read all of Fate original or all of Fate remaster, and I'm going to. It's going to be in my free time. But I think out of all the anime that we were forced to watch, this is the most worth watching and the most good.
And I was
I gave the first half an 8, the second half a 9, the prologue a 9, like, and then the alternate ending with Saber surviving, I gave it a 6 because it's fun fan service and a polycule. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like, as far as the good ending is concerned, because that's what the OVA is based off, like, it does thematically clash with a lot of the routes, so it's like, it is very much an alt ending. But as an alt ending, I really like it. It's very cute. It's a very fun polycule ending. I will say, I very much expected you to come out of this experience with Unlimited Blade Works as your favorite route. I was hoping you liked Heaven's Feel a little more than you did, but, like, I kind of had a feeling that, like, by the end of things, that Unlimited Blade Works was gonna be your favorite, because not just because of Rin, but also because, like, so much of, like, what I know of your taste, and also so much of, like, what I know you gravitate towards as far as, like character development and, like, characters in general. It's like, I knew that Shiro's struggle with Archer and everything to do with, like, characters like Lancer and Caster in that, like, I knew it was gonna, like, really, like, speak to you a whole ton.
Yeah. This is just one of those stories that spoke to me. It has the most I don't want to say the most heart, but the most, like, emotional weight to me, and it just, like, Unlimited Blade Works is my anime. I'll get to the rest eventually. We'll talk about Heaven's Feel eventually, but for where we are right now, this is my top.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to go back to the visual novel in your own time, because, like, to give you guys a bit of a behind the scenes as to why we decided to choose Tsukihime for Bun Plays and why we're doing these anime like discussions for Fate Stay Night in the first place. It's because when we were starting up Bun Plays and I was, like, tossing around the ideas of, like, doing Bun Plays episodes of, like, different Type Moon stuff, I was like, we also got to continue Fate Stay Night as, because we were doing that as a stream series. And then it was like, I don't know if I want to do that. Let's just restart it as a Bun Play series. And to be clear, guys, Sorry, one sec. You pick things up, Zen. I gotta do something real quick.
Install the damn thing.
All right,
It
I'm
took
back. I'm
forever
back.
for me it took forever for me to install the game. It took forever for me to stream it. Then I was having stream problems. Then I was having health issues, and I don't like stopping in the middle, but also after a while I forget things.
Yeah, no,
So
no, and it's like, we had already like started and stopped Fate Stay Night so much that I was like, I don't want to have us restart it again, especially after we had already like done the stream series. And so I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Because at this point, it's like at that point it'd been like 4 or 5 years since I started like asking Zen to go through Fate Stay Night, and I really just wanted her to have context for all three routes. And so I was just like, you know what, Zen, you want to just watch the anime adaptations for now, and you can circle back around to Fate Stay Night, like the visual novel later, and like we can do Tsukihime as a bum play series. And she was like, okay, yeah. And so like that's why we decided to like take things in the order that like
plus,
that we were gonna do things.
Tsukihime is a physical game that I can have on my PS5. This was before the remaster of Fate Stay Night on other platforms. So, like, it's just, I have problems with computers. I have ease of recording with a PS5.
Yeah, and luckily now you have ease of access with Fate Remastered via the Switch version. But yeah, so I am excited to see you go through Stay Night Remastered in your own time, because like it's probably going to be a while, like a long while till we do that as a Bun Play series. And for you to do that on the as an analysis series, we got to get through Danganronpa first, because that's always been the plan, is to finish the main Danganronpa series first, and then we're going to jump into Fate Stay Night to do an analysis on that. But we'll at least have you do Stay Night. We'll have you read Stay Night in your own time way before we end up doing that. Um,
I'm just gonna switch to Steins Gate and Witch on the Holy Night.
Also, to be clear, we're not going to do Danganronpa 2x2 for the Danganronpa marathon. That'll happen at a later time. That'll happen at a later point in time. We're going to end with V3 as the plan originally was.
They keep adding more stuff to my plate while we spent so much time on Danganronpa 2, and then the moment we finalized the recording, I had handed everything over to you. Danganronpa 2x2.
Yeah. God.
Mhm.
Tifa and I are going to start editing that as the new year draws, just to give a little bit of an update on that, because, I know it's been quite a while. That entire video is off Zen's plate right now. It's purely on Tifa and I. So yeah, it's like we're currently focusing on bum plays, but as the new year begins, we're gonna shift focus into Danganronpa 2. I kind of just want Tifa to finish Sonic on her end, just because like I have a little more time on my end to like multitask some projects. Tifa has a lot less time, so like I want Tifa to finish parts 4 to 6 of Sonic 3 and Knuckles first, and then we'll go ahead and like shift focus to Danganronpa 2, so that can be like our main priority going into the new year. So that's kind of the plan currently. But back on topic, I guess to give final thoughts, I know you've given a lot of your final thoughts, Zen, in terms of like your rating and all that stuff. I personally give Unlimited Blade Works, both anime and visual novel, a 9 out of 10. I love it. It's very close to Heaven's Feel as far as content is concerned and like quality is concerned. I do still prefer Heaven's Feel for many, many, many reasons, but in general, Unlimited Blade Works is still so damn good. And like, it was just one thing after another going through that route that made me go like, I'm in it for the I'm in it for the long run. Like this is such a good story. This is like an amazing narrative. And like it was just one thing after another of like, Shiro's character just getting better and better. The stuff with Rin and Shiro's dynamic and Ilya's death, and then the Archer fight and all the introspective thoughts on Shiro's ideals. By the end, I was just like, man, I love this. This is such a good narrative. And and all Heavensfield did was just push it over the edge where I'm like, right, I'm ride or die. I'm ride or die for this franchise. I adore it. But Tifa, did you want to give any final thoughts?
Elia deserves the world and deserves to have a nice life. But aside from that, I really do like how I'm being introduced into this world. Like, I've already been introduced to this world, I want to say about a year ago. I can't remember. But aside from that, it's still like funny to me how I low key knew about Fate Stay Night, but because of like these like anime magazines, and I was just like clipping out like, oh, this poster looks cool, and I recognized the logo after years and years. Like it's been more than 10 years when I saw this logo, and so when you showed me the anime, I was like, wait a minute, that earlier, and then I remembered. It's like, yeah. But I had no clue what it was about until you were also explaining it to me. Not to mention when I started to edit for the two of you, well, mostly Zen, in one of her videos of the games she played, and one of them was Fate Stay Night, because I still remember the images I was grabbing, including the footage for the visual novel, and I was so dang confused. I was like, this doesn't feel like a regular game. There's a lot of text. It feels like one of those old, like, the put text and see what happens kind of games. I don't know how to explain.
Welcome to visual novels. Like not everything is an Ace Attorney. Not everything is a Zero Escape. Not everything is a Danganronpa. Most visual novels.
Not everything is a Persona 5.
Well, Persona 5 is not even a visual novel. That's more of an RPG. It's like, most visual novels in their nature are like mostly text,
Yeah, but aside from that, it's still good to see it be adapted into a medium that I feel more comfortable with, because when I think of a video game, I don't think of a visual novel.
And I get that. It's like a lot of people like to say it's not a game. It's not a game. But like
Visual novel.
Yeah, I just love quoting Joseph Anderson with that, because like he's done a couple of visual novels, and like he constantly has like the first line of Life Will Change from Persona 5 queued up, where he's just like, it's not a game. But yeah, so and like I love the visual novel. I know like visual novels are not for everyone, but I will go to bat for it as much as I can, because especially like something we'll get into next time around with the Heavensfield adaptation. I like showing Zen the Heavensfield movies has like definitively made me go like, okay, no, the visual novel is like the definitive way that I will keep pushing again and again and time again for people when it comes to this story, because it is just the best way to experience it.
I really like the anime. Sorry, I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that they chose a animation house like Ufotable, because I'm still like wondering what if some other studio got it, like Mappa or even Wit Studio, and I'm like, I just can't visualize it, because Ufotable already did such a dang good job.
Time Moon and Ufotable have been tight for like quite a long time, because again they started out doing the Kara no Kyokai films for Type Moon. They did the whole Garden of Sinners series as a series of films. Then they moved on to Fate Zero, Unlimited Blade Works, Heavensfield. They did Today's Menu for the Emiya family, which is such a change for them. And now they're moving on with Witch on the Holy Night as a series of movies. And that's not even to mention all the openings that they did for Stay Night and Tsukihime for like the visual novels, like the updated re-releases of the visual novels. So yeah, and like they're just great in general. I will say, and I might catch flack for this, I'm definitely going to catch flack for this, I'm not particularly into their openings for Unlimited Blade Works specifically. Like specifically Unlimited Blade Works, I'm not too into their openings. The songs are pretty good. Like Ideal White from Lisa is decent enough, and Brave Shine is obviously amazing as a song. I'm not.
I think Lisa's amazing, but I'm kind of biased because I love her and I saw her live. So
Yeah,
Nice.
and Ima has like been glued to these adaptations because of her work on these like on the songs for them, and like she's amazing. Like freaking Brave Shine, Last Stardust, all of the songs for the Heavensfield movies, like they're all amazing. But as far as the actual openings are concerned, I think they spend too much time on filler shots of nothing happening, and I think that that's I think that lowers the openings down. Like a lot of people rank Brave Shine as one of like the as one of like the best anime openings, period. Like not just Fate, like period, one of the best anime openings. I don't really agree with that personally. Like I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be. But that's just me.
I think it's great. But I mean, there's a lot to love about this. I do still say go check out the visual novel first, but I'm glad that Ufotable made this. I have problems with Heaven's Feel, but we'll get to it as we get there. For right now, I'm happy with this portion right here, and I'll say more once we actually get into Fate Stay in the Kitchen, Fate Bun, whatever.
I'm gonna be very interested to see how the Heavens Feel discussion turns out, because it's like, even in spite of a lot of the adaptation quirks that I don't agree with, I still really get a lot out of those movies because Heavens Feel is just that good of a story. So I think that's going to be a fun discussion. I don't know if that will be in December or January, but we will be aiming to do like one of those 2 months to get that done, just so we can have all three of the routes of Fate Stay Night talked about. Afterwards will be Fate Zero, but I'm going to be real, we're probably going to have a little bit of a buffer. I'm probably going to have it so like Tifa will get her pick, Zen will get her pick, and while we cover those things, we'll probably be watching Fate Zero in the background just to get through it bit by bit. Because I gotta show both Zen and Tifa Fate Zero, because neither of them have yet to watch Fate Zero. So
like legit, Phil made us watch 3 anime back to back to back, and I'm just like, Phil, why can't we do the stream right afterwards? Like, no.
Yeah, because at that point I had already shown T for all of the adaptations, and we weren't initially going to have it with you, Zen, but then we had shifted plans to where it's like, okay, I'm going to show you these adaptations first. Like,
you were gonna drop me. You were gonna abandon me.
Yeah, we were gonna do the streams as just me and Tifa, but then plans changed, so it was like, oh well. So that's why there was such a big delay on the Backslog, and there wasn't an episode for like a year. I do plan on, like, after the Heavensfield episode, we are gonna like not reboot, but we're gonna like refreshen the Backslog a little bit. Same artwork, but like we're gonna have new UI for like the background, and there's a couple of ideas that I want to do to like sprucing the podcast up a little bit, kind of be like a soft reboot, but like, it's still gonna have the same feel, same like with the three of us on there. And we will do Fate Zero. It's just I want a little bit of a buffer, so it's not just 4 Fate streams back to back. So as far as the Backslog is concerned, next episode will be Heavensfield. After that will probably be Zen's pick, then Tifa's pick, and then we'll do Fate Zero.
So it better be a good pick.
Well, that's going to be on you guys. That's going to be on you guys to what you want to talk about. But with that being said, we'll see you guys for another episode of the Backslog either next month or in January, depending on how our schedule goes. I'll be real, we're pretty packed out for December, because next week is going to be the next episode of the Disney Debate with The Legend of Lobo. And then we have both part 4 of Tsukihime and Sonic 3 and Knuckles coming next month as well as the usual Christmas special for the Disney Debate. So we've got a pretty packed December ahead of us, but we will be getting the Heavensfield podcast done really soon for the Backslog. And then after that, we'll probably do a bit of an update video to let you guys know how 2026 is looking.
And then we'll get to Danganronpa 2 and Knuckles.
Yeah. But with that being said, I have been your host, Philip, joined by Zen.
Hi, I'm a bunny.
And by Tifa.
I am your locally sourced magical Latina cat.
And we will see you guys next time for the final round of Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.